In my TED Talk today, I'm going to be talking about how bias can affect a player's draft position or contract. There are three types of main biases in professional sports, and they are racial bias, age bias, also known as ageism, and confirmation bias. And I'll be talking about all three of these today. Starting with racial bias is an implicit type of bias, meaning that it is unintentional. So, and this usually happens during the drafting process. So, for example, when a coach or recruiter is recruiting a player for their team, they will be asking stereotypical questions like, "Have you ever failed a drug test?" If it's going to towards a black person, um, sometimes if they're talking to a white person, they ask if they have a drinking problem or partying problem. And it's just these little types of questions that are unintentional, but they're still biased and stereotypical towards these players. Next, with ageism or age bias, is an explicit type of bias, and meaning that it is intentional and it's almost unavoidable because many coaches have these preconceptions. Many coaches have these preconceptions about age and when players are going to burn out, and it can be really unfair towards these players because they could still be very valuable to a team, but people will write them off saying they're too old or they're burnt out, and it can be very harmful to these players' career because it can affect how long their contract will last and how much money they'll be receiving in contract. And this is one of the most unfair biases in professional sports today. The last bias I'm going to talk about is confirmation bias. And confirmation bias is basically a biased view towards something that relates to your own ideas or views on that subject. And that takes me to motivated reasoning, which is a way of using confirmation bias. So motivated reasoning is basically picking out specific instances or plays that will apply to your confirmation bias. For example, if we're talking about ageism, um, recruiters might pick out a certain play where, for example, say a player looks slow or not a lot of energy, and they can say that's because of age, and that's basically the whole aspect of confirmation bias is that you're confirming your own bias towards a player, and this this type of bias can basically hurt a player, a team, or a whole sports organization. Why people should be as unbiased as possible when looking at sports. Bias can basically only hurt them. Um, a lot of the times, coaches will let a bias affect their decisions, and a lot of the times that those decisions can be very detrimental to their sports team or even a sports organization. A great example of this is Moneyball. If anyone's not seen the movie, Moneyball was this way of implementing statistics into baseball and drafting based off of statistics. And the Oakland A's were the people who first started this. And once they started it, it reformed the way people view baseball and how people recruit players within baseball. And it was a very important change that was made to baseball. Summing it up, there are many different types of biases that are in sports. A lot of the times, these biases can be very detrimental to players, teams, and organizations. In almost every case, it hurts the team or organization because a lot of the times, like I said, um, coaches will make decisions based on their own bias, and they can end up hurting their own team. If, in my opinion, based on all my research over this project, I think people need to be open-minded to all ideas or opportunities and not let bias affect them. And here's my works cited. Thank you.